board members of New Vrindavan. Visited her for many years. He was born as a devotee. He has a less famous older brother named Radhika Prabhu that are aware. Two professors, two very influential professors in the study of Eastern traditions and Hinduism. He's now teaching at Aurora University outside of Chicago near Naperville. Some of you are here from Naperville. And is the head of the department now. Professor of ethics.
Distinguished professor.
Yes. Kalikanta Guru, that lecture you gave this morning about humility. He missed the class. Distinguished professor. He's a wonderful devotee. He led Tulsi Kirtan this morning. Those of you that were there for that, it's beautiful. It's wonderful Kirtan. He's a wonderful devotee. And I think it's also a nice example for all of us. I think we all have experience in talking to groups of devotees now, the majority of whom are working in the world. And you regularly get the question, how do I practice Krishna consciousness? You know, it's great. We go to the temple on Sunday. We have a home program on Friday. And I, listen to japa in the morning with every people. But then what about when I walk out the door? And I always think, well, that's when you put into practice what you, that's your pedal of Kurukshetra. What do you mean? How do you be Krishna? That is your chance to be Krishna conscious. Like Kalikanta is describing those 26 qualities of devotee. It's not just for when you're in the temple and listening peacefully to Bhagavatam class. That's when you get on the bus and somebody takes your seat, or somebody flips the bird at you as you're trying to drive to the office, or the boss is a jerk. What was that? Somebody need a translation of flips the bird? It's a men's conference, okay? Anyway, he's a wonderful devotee. We're very grateful that he came. Let's give a big round of applause for Gopal.
I'd like to thank His Grace Prabhu and all the organizers of the conference. It's really great to be here. My first time at this mantra retreat. I generally follow in the footsteps of my brother, so he came here the previous years, and now
he was your warm-up band.
Yes. So it's really actually wonderful, the atmosphere and the association, and thank you so much. So we'll just start with a short Jai Radha Madhav, and something that Anutta Prabhu forgot to mention is that I also played accordion.
There's a lot of work to do.
That is true.
Jaya
Like to sing Shantam Jairadhamana with the accordion because I think, well, in case the lecture, the talk doesn't turn out good, at least they'll say, okay, you played it nice. So I pray for your blessings that we can talk about this subject nicely and in a proper way. This is sort of, I tried to base it on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yesterday was Bhadra Purnima, so we've been thinking about the Bhagavatam quite a lot. And later on, especially the passages are taken from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sakitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Radhi Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Bhagavatam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shra Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Advaitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Radha Sakana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Kakanshana Rangi Radhe Vrindaveshwari Vishwanusuke Devi Pranami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Pahitanam Bhavadeyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So men, women, and māyā. Outline for this next hour or so is first we'll talk about māyā, then we'll talk māyā in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then woman is māyā, and then men, women, and māyā. When I went to study to do my PhD, I actually did my PhD on the topic of māyā. Yes. Before studying, before going for my PhD, I did a bachelor's in electrical engineering. So I didn't have really any background in religious studies or in Sanskrit. So I was thinking, well, what do I have a background in that I could, use for this? I said, well, I have a background in māyā. So I use that background and have a head start here. So the output of that study there, my dissertation, turned into a book, which is now available on Amazon. It's Māyā in the Bhagavata Purana, Human Suffering and Divine Play. So this is kind of where I'm also drawing from, is my studies and how māyā can be understood, not just in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, but also in the traditions around it and before it. So there was a Chinese Taoist philosopher. His name was Chuang Tzu, also known as Wanzi. And he was once meditating in the monastery. And one morning he began running around the monastery because the night before he had a dream where he was a butterfly flying around the monastery. So in the morning he was asking the other monks, he was asking them, am I a monk dreaming that I'm a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm a monk? Why was he asking this? Because at night when we are sleeping, then every night, actually dream research tells us today that every night, every single one of us dreams. And when we dream at night, we're fully convinced that we're there. We have no doubt in our mind that we are not there. My son is 3 years old, and sometimes in his bed he's shouting and screaming, running away from a tiger. And he's lying there on his bed, nice, fluffy bed with nothing is happening to him. Yet he's fully convinced that a tiger is chasing him, and he's screaming in fear. So when we are sleeping at night, we're 100% convinced that we are there. Although we're in our bed, we think that we are in our dream world. And when we're awake, so-called awake right now, sitting in this nice yoga shala, then we're fully convinced that we are right here. So how can we be sure that we're actually not dreaming right now? How can we be sure that we're not, let's say if at night I dream that I'm a butterfly, how will we convince Chuang Tzu that he is not a butterfly dreaming that he's a monk, but a monk dreaming that he's a butterfly? From just a rational, kind of a reasonable point of view. How would we do that? Take a few minutes and maybe turn to the person next to you, turn to 2 or 3 people, and see if you can come up with any arguments to convince our friend Chuang Tzu that he's a monk dreaming that he's a butterfly and it's not the other way around.
That's the whole point.
So how will you convince Chang Su that he's a monk dreaming that he's a butterfly and not the other way around? Anyone would like to share their answer? Yes?
Give him a good kick.
Huh?
Good kick.
Give him a good kick. Yeah. Give him a good kick, okay?
First, is it the right question?
Huh?
Is it the right question? Meaning, are you a butterfly or a monk? I think the right question is, who are you?
Okay. You're saying he's neither, maybe?
The question is, who are you? Because as per Vedic philosophy, you are a body. I mean, you are not the body, you are the soul, and the body changes. The right question, who are you, and what's your eternal constitution?
Yes. But now you're getting too philosophical. But yes, no, very good point. That is a real question. Yes.
Probably said he can jump, like if he runs out the monastery and he tries to jump down the stairs, if he's a butterfly, he'll take off.
That's a good one. That's a very nice one.
He's self-reflective of if the man is questioning if he was a butterfly, whereas the butterfly probably doesn't question that he might be a man.
Okay. That's true, but I experience in my dreams that sometimes I'm very reflective in the dream. Right? We can be quite, in fact, some famous scientists would solve all of his problems at night, and then in the morning wake up and write it all down. I forgot which mathematician it was. There was a mathematician who used to do that.
So I was just thinking, if I were the person to whom he was asking this question, I would have said, can you ask me that question tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day? So are you seeing this butterfly every day? I mean, it could happen that you're seeing the word butterfly every day, but that way you would realize that, okay, something is constant and something is changing.
Okay, so there's more continuity in his monk state. So every morning he wakes up, he's the same monk, but every night he may not have the same dream. Very true. Sometimes, although we do get repeating dreams, and especially as a child, I would start from where I left off the night before. I had a sort of a night reality. But you're right, it's more consistent. Remember, I think you have this?
Oh, actually, we were just, what has the most impact and the continuing impact on your consciousness? Which realm? And that was more succinctly put by that devotee, the continuity.
Okay, very nice. Very nice.
Subconscious, if you're desperate about something that keeps on running in your head and a state of rest, you get into that mode.
So you tend to see that what you dream at night reflects your day consciousness.
Yourself, yeah.
But it's oftentimes not the other way around. Right? Yeah, your night dreaming doesn't affect your day consciousness.
Oh, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No.
Not necessarily.
So butterflies only live for a few months. Give it a few months if he's still alive.
Oh,
Yes. Okay, last one.
So the butterfly's life may be very short, and therefore he may have lived as a butterfly for that short time.
And now he's a monk thinking I was a butterfly.
So yeah, here's an argument that he is a butterfly. I like this. So he's one argument that favor. Maybe it was just a very short life, right? And he was a butterfly and he lived that life as a butterfly. Well, this is actually one of a great philosophical quandary that not just started dreaming. Is anyone had this?
It's already on. It's already on.
timing out.
Oh, it's on now.
I think your laptop.
Laptop, move the laptop.
No, the laptop is on. It's connected. This thing fell asleep. You move the mouse on the laptop. It started dreaming. Oh, how are you? Yeah, we can see your cursor showed up on the screen.
Yeah.
You did? Yeah.
Now he turned off.
Yeah.
Now it's off.
Yeah, I press this. That's what
You hit the.
Yeah.
The butterfly flew away.
You need to change the input.
I'm working perfectly fine. Just 2 minutes.
How many devotees?
He's a tech person here. Plato asked this question in his book Theaetetus. Plato was a disciple of Socrates. He has Socrates talking to Theaetetus, and Socrates challenges his disciple Theaetetus. And he says, he was giving like a discourse like this, and he said, what proof could you give if anyone should ask us now, at the present moment, whether we are asleep and our thoughts are a dream, or whether we are awake and talking with each other in a waking condition? He says, what proof could you give me? So there are arguments, and very nice arguments that you brought up, where we could convince Chang-Su that, well, he's maybe more a monk than a butterfly, and he's a monk dreaming that he's a butterfly. But how can we convince ourselves that at the present moment, as we are sitting and talking right now, that right currently we are not dreaming? And the dreams that we have at night are simply dreams within dreams. This is called the problem of the dream within a dream. So you've dreamt this way, right? When at night you're dreaming that you're dreaming. You've had that dream? You know, as a small child, I was once dreaming that I was dreaming in my dream. I was dreaming that I was going to the bathroom. But I was dreaming I wasn't going to the bathroom. So you know what happened after that. so you dream within dreams. So what is to say that right now we're not dreaming at this time? And we're in a waking condition. And in answer to this, Socrates concludes that in fact we cannot know whether or not we are dreaming. That in fact we are dreaming. And he said everyone in this world is dreaming except for a few philosophers, that is himself and a few others, who knew that they're dreaming, and that's why they're not really dreaming, because they're at least aware that they're dreaming. But why do we call a dream a dream? Like, you know, a dream is a completely tangible experience, right? We're there, we're eating gulab jamuns, rasgullas, and we're tasting them. But why do we call the dream a dream experience? What is it about it that if, no matter what we get or how much we get, we're not impressed by it? When we wake up.
Not on a physical platform, but it's on a mental platform.
Well, it doesn't matter, it's just as real.
Yeah.
So our waking is real, our dreaming is just as real.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. It has a beginning and an end. Because we know that it has an end. It's a very short, someone said it's a short period. Right? It has a beginning and an end. We know that, oh, it's a dream. It's a dream. Well, life also has a beginning and an end. They say as sure as death, right? That's it. For sure, it has a beginning and an end. So Plato says, and Socrates say, that given that it has a beginning and an end, it is most certainly a dream. It's just 100-year dream. It's a very long dream rather than a 10-minute dream. It's actually lasts 80 years or 90 years, a 100-year dream. And this theme was also picked up in South America by the Christian writer Pedro Calderon. He wrote this book, Life is a Dream. And we see even Christian writers recognize this. Why? Because the dream experience is actually a very powerful experience because it's empirical, right? We don't have to take it on faith. We all dream. We all know that experience. So he, in this book, he writes that since life is a dream, as Plato said, he said, what gain could be so great and what loss could be so big? Life is a dream, what gain could be so great, what loss could be so big? This is a poem from his book, Life is a Dream, translated into English. He says, man dreams the life that is his until his living is done. The king dreams he is a king, and in this delusive way lives and rules with a sovereign sway. All the cheers that round him ring, born of air, on air take wing. And in ashes, mournful fate, death dissolves his pride and state. Who would wish a crown to take, seeing that he must awake in the dream beyond death's gate? So he's saying that this life is a dream. So very much like our, written all over our philosophy. He's saying, what's the point of becoming a king or this? And then he's saying that after death we'll awaken in yet another dream. And that's the other, the next, most important question is then, how do we know whether we're ever awake? How do we know when we are awake? So life is a dream. We can't be sure whether we're dreaming or not. In fact, we are dreaming. It's a 100-year dream. So when do we know that we're actually awake? When we awaken, after that, we could just be in another dream. And when we awaken from that dream, we could be in another dream. A dream within a dream, right? So when and how could we be sure that we are awake?
we start associating ourselves as this body.
When we
Stop relating to ourselves as this body.
yes.
Can you repeat the answer so we can hear?
The answer is when we stop associating ourselves with the body. That is true. That happens. When we are awakened. But at night, we don't associate ourselves with this body. We associate ourselves with another body, and we're still dreaming. We associate ourselves with the mental body.
When we become witness to our own dreams?
When we become a witness to our dreams. Yes, but we could be witnessing our dream, but within a dream, right? Just like when we wake up in the morning, we're witnessing or thinking about the dream. But yeah, that's true. If we're while dreaming, we're somehow outside of it. But that would be a little difficult. Yes.
Actually, I have an experience of a person in my family who is lunatic. This is in Chennai, India, and luckily we were very nice to him. So he would be always dressed very nicely and wearing a brand new watch, and that was his only thing. Like he'd dress very nice clothes, wear a very nice watch, and go out into the city. Walk into the city till it's lunchtime, come back. So people can go through this not just in their dreams. People can be lunatic in their daily life and believe themselves to be a king. You need a confirmation. Everybody has confirmation bias. So and I would say that Gopal had confirmation bias because he always called God Krishna. But if you go to a Christian, you say, I want to call God Jesus Christ. Because once that's okay. If you want to chant Jesus Christ, then you do that. So everybody has confirmation bias. So you have to recognize that you have a bias and then get it cross-checked by the third person.
Okay, you could get cross-checked by a third person. I like that final point. So my question basically is, how do we know that we're not biased? And you're saying, well, if we get cross-checked by a third person, maybe someone who is awake, right? And last one here, and then we'll go on.
When we attain eternal consciousness.
Yes, we know that we're not in the dream when the dream never ends. Because then even if it is a dream, that's a reality that we know. What was our definition of a dream? It has a beginning and an end, right? The definition of a dream is something that has a beginning and an end. That's why we call it a dream. But if it never ends, then that is our reality. So we only wake up, we actually wake up when we go to the spiritual world, because then that dream never ends. So we know we're awake, because this is my reality. This is really true. So we see that in our Shastra also, actually, the world is described as a dream of God, right? Of Mahavishnu. He's actually in a mystic slumber. And all these material worlds are his dream worlds. All these material planets are literally emanating from his dream. And this material world is a dream world. It's the Lord's dream. And we're all participating in some ways in the Lord's dream. We're dreaming ourselves and participating in this common dream. And when the Lord does this pastime, the material worlds manifest, but he wants us to come to the waking world, where he's not in yoga nidra, in his dreaming state, but in a real state. So what is the human condition? The most common metaphor that's used in the Vedic scriptures, particularly also the Srimad Bhagavatam, to describe the human condition is the dream state. The most common metaphor, if you see throughout the Vedic scriptures, when they have to give a metaphor or describe what is our material condition, they say it is like a person who is dreaming. Therefore, the Vedas and Upanishads, they say, Tamasi ma jyotir gamaya. Do not stay in darkness. Come to the light. As always, the imagery given is of awakening, coming to the light. Uttishta, get up. And Jagrata, awaken. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, for example, this is a passage, it says, after this person has enjoyed himself and traveled around in that realm of dream and seen for himself the good and the bad, he rushes along the same path and through the same opening back again to the realm where one is awake. Whatever he may have seen in that realm of dream does not follow him, because nothing sticks to this person. We experience it, We cry in our dream, we celebrate in our dream, and then nothing sticks to it. We forget it and it goes on. After this person has enjoyed himself and traveled around in that waking realm and seen for himself the good and the bad, he rushes along the same path and through the same opening back again to the realm of dream. Whatever he may have seen in that waking realm does not follow him, because nothing sticks to this person. So the Upanishad is basically just saying that these are two states of consciousness. We like Socrates was saying, we take this waking state very seriously, very important, all these things. But the fact is that the dream state is one state of consciousness, the waking state is another state of consciousness, and they move from one state to another state. Similarly, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, Text 3 and 4, it tells us how we should free ourselves from this dream position. A grihastha must associate again and again with saintly persons. And with great respect, he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord, and his incarnations of these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus, one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children. This was a men's retreat, so I chose this. Exactly like a man awakening from a dream. So, when a person is screaming and shouting in their bed and they have so many problems and the tiger is chasing them, or if there's a thief in the house, what's the easiest way to solve their problems? You just wake them up, right? You shake them, wake them up. Automatically, they all get solved. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam narrations by the great saintly persons and narration of the Bhagavatam are meant to give us knowledge about that eternal world. That if we just wake up, all of our problems are solved, and they're giving us information about that real world. So, this dream world is the human condition, and it's a human problem. And Prabhupada, in one place, this is kind of as a side note to our discussion, he says, if we serve Krishna in this dream world, and we serve him so much, so intensely, that we serve him not only in the dream world, but even, he says this actually, in the dream within the dream. Even within that night when we are dreaming, we are serving him. Then he says that Krishna breaks us out of this dream world. So when we serve him so intensely that even within the dream of the dream, we're serving him, then Krishna frees us by his grace. Therefore the grace, the mercy is so important. But then he breaks us out of this world, and we can come to the real world. So this dream world is the world of Maya. This is the material world. And this Maya world, this dream world, this world is described as Maya because though we feel that it is so real and it is so important, it's flickering like a dream. So there's many meanings for this term Maya, and this term Maya has had various meanings all the way from the Rig Veda, where in its most basic original meaning, it's used in the sense of creative power. The Maya is the Shakti, the power of the Lord. We tend to take it as only as illusion or unreality, but really the most general sense of the term is that Maya is the creative power of the Lord, and it's very difficult to understand. The Srimad Bhagavatam says that if someone can understand the Lord's Maya, then the Lord removes the Maya from him. No one can understand the Lord's Maya. Even the Lord himself cannot understand the limits of his Maya. So what to speak of us? It's really hopeless. But if we can recognize Maya, then we can break out of this Maya. So Maya is Krishna's magical power when related to the human condition. Maya is the magical power that deludes living beings, and it ensorcels us in the phenomenal world. So māyā is that energy that makes us completely absorbed in this dream world, so that we don't think that there's anything outside of it. We forget that we're dreaming. We forget that we have any existence outside of this world. So, the famous philosopher, 19th century German philosopher Paul Deussen, he believed that there's no doctrine more central to Vedic thought or Indian thought than that of māyā. The eminent Sanskritist Daniel Ingalls chose to call māyā one of the most beautiful concepts in the history of religion, because of this idea that you can be forgetful of your true self, like be absorbed in a material dream state. And finally, John Polkinghorne, a modern philosopher, understanding that māyā is the world in Vedic scriptures, that this world is called māyā, and science is the study of the world. He said an understanding of the concept of māyā is essential in Hinduism and Buddhism if they are to engage with modern science. So, people generally misunderstand what māyā is. We also sometimes misunderstand. Because of Shankaracharya, a Shankaracharya called māyā as illusion or unreality. He said māyā means unreality or illusion. Therefore, his system of thought, impersonalism, is called māyāvād, like māyāvād, because it's actually the discourse on māyā. It's that important for them. And what he does, the reason why his contribution is truly unique, is that he just changes the meaning of the word māyā. He changes māyā to mean unreality. When in fact, māyā means the energy of God, and we'll get to that more. If we see the actual word and its etymology through the Vedic text, it doesn't mean unreality. It acts in an elusive way. It has an effect that may make the world feel unreal because it's temporary. But māyā itself is very real. But because he changes the meaning of the word to unreality, wherever it says the world is māyā, it means the world is unreal. Right? So therefore it's called māyāvād. Sanskrit texts characterize the world as māyā, thus the world is unreal or simply an illusion. The world of māyā is to be rejected and transcended. So if this world is unreal, if it is bad, then it's to be rejected, and this world has no value, and we should only worry about the spiritual dimension. This understanding of māyā as unreality, as falsehood, is so prominent that we tend to also read that translation of this word whenever we read the term māyā. Right? We see it only in that negative context. But it's very interesting that Srila Prabhupada doesn't. Being true to the tradition, when I started studying this subject, I actually, after some time, was starting to appreciate that what a genius Srila Prabhupada is. Because in some places, like in the Bhagavad Gita, he'll translate māyā, mama māyā dhratya, as the transcendental potency of the Lord, that I appear in this world through my māyā. Srila Prabhupada translates it as the transcendental potency of the Lord. And you think, oh, that's a Gaudiya Vaishnava translation, or Prabhupada is interpreting it in this certain way. But if we see that prior to Shankaracharya, who came quite late on the scene, before Shankaracharya, māyā was used as energy, as power. Like the Rig Veda I mentioned to you, it uses this term māyā as creative power. It's as real as it gets. It's the power that creates the world. In the Shvetashvara Upanishad, māyā is the power by which Rudra creates this world. So Prabhupada does not start with the assumptions of Shankaracharya or with the impersonalist ideas. He's spot on. One of the meanings in a certain context of māyā is illusion or unreality. But that's not the meaning in every sense. And this is just kind of giving you a heads up of what's coming. This is why when we say women are māyā, we find a term in the Bhagavatam, it mentions women are māyā. Then we tend to say, oh, therefore they're bad. Because māyā is bad, so women are māyā, it must be a bad thing. Or it must be a bad position. But that's due to the mistaken understanding of the concept of māyā. Māyā is, we have in our tradition, a very positive conception of Māyā, which is what?
Yogamaya.
Yogamaya, right? Krishna's internal potency. And Prabhupada writes in the introduction to the 10th canto, he says that Māyā is one. Yogamaya, Mahamaya is the same Māyā. It's just how we accept it, how we understand it, that it appears different. So Māyā comes from the Sanskrit root Ma. Guess what the meaning of the word Ma is?
Mother.
Mother, yes. Which means to create like a mother would do. So Māyā comes from the root Ma, which means like a mother who creates. Not Ma as means to measure. That is also one meaning, but that's a secondary meaning actually. In the Vedas, Māyā is used in the context of creative power, magic, and also deception. Now what's interesting is that in the Vedas and the Upanishads, this word Māyā is actually not used so often. It's only used like 13 or 14 times. But the term Māyā actually comes into use. There's an explosion of this term in the Puranas, particularly the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we come to the Srimad Bhagavatam uses this word Māyā about 600 times. And it uses this word in many different ways. It doesn't just use it in one way, in one form. It uses it in many different ways, which can be categorized in three main ways. So Māyā, firstly, in the way that we've discussed, is used as a human condition. Māyā is the human condition, the dream state, this world of Māyā that we're in, this place of falsehood. This is Māyā, or this place of illusion as a human condition. Māyā is used as the world, as the creative power. So as this physical world, this is the world of Māyā. Nothing really in terms of elusive, just as the power that creates this world. And finally, Māyā is used also as the divine condition, Yogamaya. Māyā that is used in the divine, in Krishna's spiritual abode. So this is the three different functions of Māyā in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of the places where Māyā shows up, and this is just a quick segue into talking about the Māyā as a woman, is in the narration of Puranjana. Right? In the 4th canto we find this narration of Puranjana, who's the soul. He's like an everyman. This is actually an allegory. It's explicitly mentioned in the Bhagavatam. The story of Puranjana is an allegory. All the other stories are actual histories, narrations, but this is an allegory. So he's an everyman, meaning that he's us. Puranjana is this, describing the living being. It represents the living being. So Puranjana is stuck in this material world, in this city of 9 gates, which represents the body. And in that city of 9 gates, he's completely absorbed. He's forgotten his true self, and particularly he's very much attached to his wife, who is what in the allegory? The Buddhi, right? His wife is Buddhi, and she is his intelligence, and he's very attached to his wife. And when he dies very attached to his wife. And so what happens in his next life? Yes. So Puranjana comes back as Vaidharvi. And she marries King Balayadvaja. And as Puranjana, as Vaidharvi, Puranjana is a very devoted wife, very attached to her husband, Balayadvaja. And Balayadvaja is an ideal husband, an ideal king. When he dies, then Vaidharvi, being a queen and he was a king, it was quite common in royalty, particularly in royalty, that the queen would enter into the fire of her husband. So she's setting up the pyre to put the dead body of her husband on it there in the forest to burn the body. And in that moment, when his body is being burnt, then she's about to enter into the fire. And at that moment, the Lord appears to her in the form of a Brahmana. And that's what you see here. The Lord appearing to her in the form of a brahmana. And when he appears as a brahmana to Vaidharvi, then he stops her from entering into the fire. Very interesting, because the Bhagavatam is showing that it's against this idea of sati. Bhagavatam is so actually forward-thinking. He says, why are you doing this? The Brahmana asked Vaidharvi. Why are you giving up your life like this? Don't you know, have you not forgotten your eternal friend? Your avigyata sakha, your unknown friend that's always been with you? Have you forgotten that I am your eternal friend? And you have no reason to weep? And don't you remember, he says, that before you and I were swans in the Manasa lake, and we used to frolic together, but you, desiring carnal pleasures, you left me and you came to this world to enjoy carnal pleasures. There's very, very beautiful verses there. It's describing, he's saying that you and I were together, we were frolicking together. We were two swans. We have been two swans in the Manasa lake. And you, desiring carnal pleasures, you left me, it says particularly. You left me and you came to this world. And ever since that, we've been in this world. So Maya is used in three different ways in this world. There's the human condition, the world, and then the divine condition. And depending on what we are looking for, Maya can either facilitate or obstruct our vision of God. So when it obstructs our vision of Krishna, of God, then it's Mahamaya. When we want to forget him, like Puranjana, we want to forget him, then Maya serves as the covering, the curtain, the covering potency. But when we want to remember him, like the unknown friend telling Vaidharvi, then it allows us access into the spiritual realm, Yoga Maya. Being under Yoga Maya is actually a privileged position that the devotees aspire for. In the 10th canto, Narad Muni prays to Krishna that please let me come under your Yoga Maya so that I can also experience your pastimes like the residents of Vrindavan do. So it's actually, it's like a very special position. So in accordance with each soul's freedom of choice, Maya either obstructs or facilitates devotion and knowledge and closeness to God. And since the Bhagavatam sees women as manifestations of Maya's power, its portrayal of women naturally follows along these two contrasting lines. So now we come to the part of women as Maya. So with this understanding that Maya can hide us, can delude us, put us in a dream world, or reveal the spiritual world, we also see that because Maya is identified with women, women's roles in the Bhagavatam and men's roles also follow these contrasting lines. So, the first one, Maya as deluding potency. The description of women as Maya, woman as being a temptress. One who aspires to reach the culmination of yoga and has realized his self by rendering service unto me should never associate with an attractive woman. For such a woman is declared in the scripture to be the gateway to hell for the advancing devotee. The woman created by the Lord is a representation of Maya, and one who associates with such Maya by accepting services must certainly know that this is the way of death, just like a blind well covered with grass. So, this is not to be said in public. So, this is the, if a woman is seen as attractive, right? Bhagavatam here is saying for the man, or not even saying for the man, it's just making it seem like a general point that women are Maya, they are the gateway to hell. Stay far away from them. Be very careful. And it's passages such as these that, people read and they become very confused. And they say, oh, the scriptures are very biased, and why do they portray women like this? So it's passages like this that warn us about the dangers of associating with women. But, as you mentioned here, right? Since the Bhagavatam sees women as manifestations of Maya's potency, its portrayal of women naturally follow along these two lines, obstructing or facilitating devotion. Is it women or is it something else? So here's one more quote about the dangers of women before we get to the positive side. Amongst all kinds of living entities begotten by Brahma, namely men, demigods, and animals, none but the sage Narayan is immune to attraction of Māyā in the form of woman. Just try to understand the mighty strength of my Māyā in the shape of woman, who by the mere movement of her eyebrows can keep even the greatest conquerors of the world under her grip. And this is in the section Mohini Murti, where everyone is fascinated by her beauty. Even Lord Shiva cannot resist the beauty of Mohini Murti. Befooled by the Māyā of Krishna, Lord Shiva pursues Mohini Murti on the banks of the rivers and lakes, on mountains, in forests and in gardens, and where great sages lived. And why does Mohini Murti particularly go through the sages' hermitages? Huh? To test them?
To show them what's going on with Lord Shiva and the attraction to a woman.
To show them what's going on? Yes?
With who's called Dhira. Lord Shiva is called Dhira, and this is what is happening to him.
So to warn the sages, right? That never be too confident about overcoming or overpowering my Māyā, right? Never be overconfident that now I've overcome this attraction for women. Because even Lord Shiva, even he can become infatuated by a woman's beauty. So he's actually warning the sages by doing this. And he's showing that how his Māyā is far more powerful. Right? That though Māyā, even though it's a material energy, but it's the Lord's divine energy. And it's the Lord's energy, so it's far more powerful than us. Therefore, we always have to be very careful, never overconfident that now I've conquered Māyā. Prabhupada therefore used to pray that, oh Krishna, please don't let me follow Māyā, because he was never overconfident of his ascetic powers. Right? So the point being here that in this story of Mohini Murti, the demons become infatuated by her beauty. She brings the pot of nectar, right? They become infatuated by her beauty. The demigods do not, except for Lord Shiva, which was pastime of the Lord. And because the demons become infatuated by her beauty, they lose the nectar. And because the demigods are not infatuated by the beauty, they gain the nectar. So, one of the themes of the Bhagavatam is that attachment to women is considered synonymous with death. The previous verse that I read here, that it's saying woman is like death, like a blind well covered with grass. On the other hand, freedom of attachment from women leads to immortality. The demigods are not attached, therefore they become immortal. So, when we read these passages, then the question that we have to look at very carefully is that, is the verse and verses really saying that women themselves are the problem? Or are they saying that it is the temptation, the attraction, or attachment to women that's the problem? And secondly, is the Srimad Bhagavatam being biased? Because it's saying these statements about women, but it's not saying it about men. Right? It's a fair enough argument. And many modern scholars men and women, both scholars, have criticized Vedic scriptures and even the Bhagavatam for being biased, because they say, it says these things about women, but it doesn't say it about men. But if we read it carefully, it says it's about men as well. And it makes it clear that the cause of temptation is passion, but not women. Women are māyā for the man, and men are māyā for women. Women itself are not māyā, like we see in the case of the demigods. They are not attracted by Mohini Murti's mercy, Mohini Murti's beauty. Therefore, they get the pot of nectar. But the demons are. They become infatuated by her beauty. So the māyā is the temptation. It's the passion, not the form of the woman itself. A living entity who, as a result of attachment to a woman in his previous life, has been endowed with the form of a woman, foolishly looks upon māyā in the form of a man, her husband, as the bestower of wealth, progeny, house, and other material assets. So notice this is in the same section, Canto 3, chapter 31, which had all these statements about women. And that's why the scholars often take these statements out of context. In that same section, this verse is there about men. A woman, therefore, should not consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the... should consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the external energy of the Lord. For her death, just as a sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer. So in the previous verse we had seen, here's a direct correlation, we had seen how the verse was saying that women are the gateway to hell, women are death, right? Like a blind well, like a well covered by grass. And here, the same terminology, the same words are being used for the husband, for the attached woman. It says there, a woman therefore should consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the external energy of the Lord for her death, just as a sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer. Of course, we understand, we're all kind of mature devotees here, we understand that in our families, there's a lot of room for affection, for love, for care, between husband and wife. What the Bhagavatam here is talking about is attachment, right? That the attachment is the problem. But my purpose in bringing these verses is that the fact is that these verses exist in the Bhagavatam, right? They won't disappear. They exist. And they're difficult verses. And these are verses that men read, that we all read, and we oftentimes misunderstand. That women are bad, they're the gateway to hell, they're māyā. But we oftentimes miss these verses. Right? So we don't see the other side, the balanced side, or the other side is missed in these discussions. So these verses exist, and we need to understand how to see them in proper context. Both are māyā. Women are māyā, but who says men are not māyā? It says right here, right, that the husband, the woman who foolishly looks upon māyā, my māyā in the form of a man, her husband, as a bestower of wealth, progeny, house, and other material assets, is, the verse is saying, you're a foolish woman. So, the temptation is for different things. For the man, it's the beauty, generally, it's the beauty of the woman, that's the māyā, that's the attachment. For the woman, it's not exactly the handsomeness of a man, but more importantly, it's their wealth, the house, the material assets, the support, you could say the protection, power, or whatever, that the man provides to the woman that is more attractive. But it's the temptation for these things, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that the either gender finds in the other person, that becomes māyā for them. And then, very wonderful verse, famous verse from Rukmini, who's writing a letter to Krishna. She's trying to explain to him to Krishna why she only wants Krishna as her husband. And then she says some heavy words about all of us. A woman who fails to relish the fragrance of the honey of your lotus feet becomes totally befooled, and thus she accepts as her husband or lover a living corpse, covered with skin, whiskers, nails, head hair and body hair, and filled with flesh, bones, blood, parasites, feces, mucus, bile, and hair. So, Bhagavatam is very balanced here. We have nothing to be proud of or to feel superior to women. We have nothing to be proud of. The male body is also just flesh and bones. And Queen Rukmini is saying that why should we become attached to a husband or lover who has a material form, material body? Be attached to Krishna. And just like we saw the verses warning the men. In fact, I would make the argument, and this is actually something that really we can capitalize in our philosophy. It's so nice that the highest devotees of Krishna in our tradition are women, and they're in the form of women. So while other texts, Manusmriti and things like that, see the form of a woman as an obstacle to the path of asceticism, of self-realization, what to speak of being māyā? Women are the highest devotees of Krishna. And women are, remember, Māyā has different ways. As Mahamaya covers our vision of Krishna, but as Yogamaya it facilitates seeing the Lord. Yogamaya allows Mother Yashoda to forget Krishna's grandeur and his opulence, and in this way allows her to access his sweetness. In the same way, the feminine nature and the feminine qualities, which are generally called feminine, devotion, love, sweetness, this and that, they are great assets in approaching Krishna. Like in the famous pastime of the brahmanas and their wives. The brahmanas are saying this about their wives. When the cowherd boys go to beg food from the brahmanas, they say no, but their wives say yes. And later on, the brahmanas realize that Krishna had come to them asking for food, and they lost a great opportunity, but their wives did not. So they say, these gopi women are the highest embodied beings on the earth. Their love for Govinda, Krishna, the soul of everything, is perfected. Those who are fearful of the material world aspire to this, and so do the sages, and so do we ourselves. What is the use of births as Brahma? So notice the wording here. It says, these gopi women are the highest embodied beings on the earth. So particularly, they're saying that they're referring also to their body as gopis, as the cowherd maidens of Vrindavan, that they're the highest embodied beings in this world. Their body is not an obstacle in their devotion to Krishna. Their love for Govinda is perfect. Then they start to curse themselves. Curses on the birth, which is threefold. Curses on vows. Curses on extensive learning. Curses on our family lineage. Curses on skill in rituals. We still remain averse to Bhokshaja, Krishna. Truly, the Māyā of Bhagavan bewilders even the yogis. Because of it, we brahmanas, the gurus of humanity, are confused about our own self-interest. Aho! See the unlimited devotion of these very women for Krishna, the Guru of the world. It has pierced the fetters of death under the guise of household life. Neither the sanskara, purificatory rites of the twice born, nor residence in the house of the Guru, nor austerity, nor inquiry into the self, nor rites of cleanliness, nor auspicious rituals were practiced by these women. Nonetheless, they were constant in devotion to Krishna. the Lord of the lords of yoga, whose glories are renowned. This was not the case with us, even though we had undergone the sanskaras and other such rites. Oh, how fortunate we are to have wives such as these. Their devoutness has given rise to unwavering devotion to Hari in us. This final sentence, like the punchline. Like, oh, we are fortunate to have wives such as these. So they had become, their gurus in this way. In the traditional Vedic system, the husband is seen as a guru of the wife. And they're saying in this case, the roles switched because they have more devotion for Krishna. How fortunate we are that they have given rise to devotion within us. Showing that the test of advancement is one's devotion, one's bhakti. And then one may say that, well, they're Brahmana's wives and they're in a Brahmana's wife's body, therefore they're special. What about the other women? Maybe they were just a unique case. In general, the Bhagavatam doesn't say this. But we find after this, later on, when Uddhava visits Vrindavan, Uddhava is a very high class, he's royalty, high class Brahmana, and he notices, he observes the gopis of Vrindavan, and after that he says these words. He says, oh, may I become any of the shrubs, creepers, or plants in Vrindavan that enjoy the dust of the feet of these women. They have renounced their own relatives, which are so hard to give up, and worshipped the feet of Mukunda. So, I have actually more to say, but I want to leave time for discussion. There's one or two more slides here, but I think we should stop here. And we have, it's 11:30, so about 15-20 minutes for discussion. So, thank you very much.
You were mentioning about Shankara and the word illusion, and you said, no, we can't say that. But when we use māyā, we use it in the concept of that's an illusory idea. Like you think this is going to make you happy, that's an illusion. So you were saying we're using it wrongly, but isn't that only in the context of philosophy, but practically that's how we use it? Is that correct, or you want to add something to that?
Yes, I actually should clarify on this, because one of the meanings of māyā is illusion, right? So that is one of the meanings. What Shankaracharya, what he did that we don't accept is not the illusion part, but he says that māyā is unreal. And unreal in a strict ontological sense, that the world of māyā is unreal. That we don't accept. It is unreal, and even we use māyā in the term in the context of unreality, in the sense that it's temporary. These things that are temporary are, in some sense, in one way, unreal, although they're not fully unreal, because they're an object of experience. So the problem also here is in the word illusion, how we understand the word illusion. Mayavadis, Shankaracharya generally take illusion as unreality. If it's illusion, it's unreal, like a dream is unreal. But we take illusion as misunderstanding one thing for another. So it's still real, but it's elusive because it's a misunderstanding. Thinking the body to be the self. Both the body and the self are both real, but what's elusive is our misunderstanding, is mixing it up. Secondly, Shankara, that's the only way he understands that term, is illusion and unreality. But we don't see it only in that way. We see that māyā is the Shakti of the Lord. Fundamentally, the most general understanding, the correct understanding of māyā is creative power, energy. This is the way Srila Prabhupada uses it in multiple ways. He also defines it in this way in his introduction to the 10th canto. And then one of the ways māyā works, for those who choose to turn away, is it's elusive. But māyā, generally, 3/4 of the creation is the spiritual creation. So generally speaking, māyā is actually facilitating our devotion to Krishna. It's Krishna's energy, which makes so many arrangements for the Lord. Yoga māyā, the spiritual world is pastimes. So that's you could say in some ways, māyā in all contexts is a positive energy. Because even in the material world, she's acting in this way to bring us back to Krishna. Thank you.
Does Srimad Bhagavatam say anything about this modern day thing that young boys want to suddenly become girls, and vice versa too? And I actually experienced that because my neighbor happened. The girl's son became a boy.
Yes.
And the father, parents came and told us, you should now address this person as that.
Yes. Yes, most semesters actually. I have one student that in the beginning I refer to as him, and by the end her. At the course of the semester they change gender. It's very common now. Or they start as a her, and then by law then we have to refer to them as him. We have to change the pronouns. Very common. And in the Bhagavatam we have the narration of King Sudamna, where he was a king who was cursed for some reason. Who cursed him? Any of the members? He was cursed to be a man for 6 months and a woman for 6 months.
Lord Shiva also.
Yeah, Lord Shiva cursed him. Yes.
In a forest he went and saw something.
Yes. So he went in Lord Shiva's forest. And no man can come in that forest because Lord Shiva is the only man there. So when he entered, he had to turn into a woman. And since that time, for 6 months he was a man, 6 months he was a woman. And so he was changing gender each year, like 6 months, 6 months. But then it's interesting, the Bhagavatam describes that, after a while he becomes very exasperated because of that, detached from the body. It's like, what's his body? Like 6 months I'm a man, 6 months I'm a woman. And because of that, then at the end of his life, he becomes very serious in his devotional life and he goes back home, back to Godhead. So, Bhagavatam shows how it doesn't matter we're a man, we're a woman, or transgender, any gender, we can go back home, back to Godhead. And in fact, his curse and his changing of genders becomes a catalyst for him to become very serious in spiritual life. So obviously it was a very, it wasn't it was an uncomfortable situation for him. But any situation can be engaged in the service of the Lord, can be, so in the material world we find, sometimes out of choice, but oftentimes just biologically, due to various reasons, people are in a body that doesn't match with their mind. And because of that, they have to change their physical body or change their mind somehow. It's a very actually painful situation. And the soul is, trying to find Krishna. That's the real thing. Yes. There's one question there. Yes. Yes.
Very beautiful class. Very thought-provoking, and made us think also for your presentation. Couple of questions that get in my mind is initial part of the class. You mentioned that dream is a state. It's a state of consciousness where there is a beginning and end. And similarly in this life too. So both are in a way kind of a dream-like situation. And you also further mentioned that even the state of a dream-like situation when you worship Krishna, and you quoted Prabhupada, and one can go back to Godhead. So maybe I must have missed a link here, because how come something in any thought or any consciousness in a dream state has any value? So in the dream state, even if we worship Krishna, because we know Krishna is God and that's a different part of it, but conceptually, because you are explaining, so I wanted to understand what is the link that I am missing.
What's
so
the value?
That even in the dream state, my worship of Krishna has a value, and everything that we are hearing and doing.
Very nice point. Thank you for bringing that up. Actually, like we're reading, this Bhagavatam says, this life is like a dream, it's flickering, don't take it seriously, doesn't have any value, but it has value for one very important reason. Because it's our activity in this dream life that breaks us out of the dream. Though temporary, our temporary activities in this life have an eternal effect. They have an eternal impact on the soul. So material activities not so important because they come and go. They don't have an eternal impact. But the activities that we do in the dream state, while we're dreaming, it's those activities that Krishna says, okay, this soul is very serious. They want to know me. Because they're endeavoring, whatever state of consciousness they're in, whatever reality they're in that reality, they're trying to know me, they're trying to serve me. And so let me pull them out of this dream world.
So basically, the dream kind of analogy that you have given for life, it has some limitation. It is not literally like dream, because it has a value, whatever worship to Krishna.
Yes. Well, even in the analogy, Prabhupada in one place, one devotee asks, Prabhupada, if I'm breaking the regulated principles in my dream, then is that breaking the regulated principles? And Prabhupada said, yes, it is. So, it is. He said, it is. So, whichever state of consciousness, if our consciousness is not with Krishna, then we're in material consciousness. And so, while we're dreaming or while we're awake, we have to be Krishna conscious. And whatever Krishna consciousness we do, in the wake state or in the dream state, it pleases Krishna.
And one follow-up question is that...
One comment with the floor, and then go ahead.
So the only thing that matters is the service I do for Krishna, and nothing else has value, and this seems very difficult to do, so I might as well go out and enjoy a totally degraded life, because otherwise it has no value. So someone could interpret it like that. That, you're working hard to maintain your 4 kids, and I'm just going out and doing all kinds of nonsense, because what you're doing is illusion, and what I'm doing is illusion. It doesn't matter. One of these days I'll serve Krishna, but in the meantime I'm just going to enjoy my senses with no restriction. How would you respond to that?
Thank you. It's a nice
Sorry, you have to get an occasional question from the demoniac mentality.
All glories to your thought-provoking question. And others can respond as well, give the answer as well, but what does service to Krishna mean? Right? Service to Krishna. Krishna is the name of God, which means the all-attractive person. And every living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. So a person who is taking care of his family, who's at least acting according to their dharma, is serving Krishna through their dharma. Right? That is a form of service. It's maybe general, not so direct, but Krishna is pleased by dharma. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam as well, that this is why he was so pleased with Maharaj Yudhishthira, because he was practicing dharma. So Krishna is pleased by dharma. So a person who is endeavoring, if I'm understanding your question correctly, if a person is endeavoring to lead a good life, a responsible life, be a family man, they are serving God through that. Of course, then they need to progress more and realize that they're serving God in the fullest sense, realize that. And a person who's just, not doing the dharma, their life is less valuable. It's less important. It's not important because there's no lasting benefit to it. But then the next dream is going to be a little bit more terrible to wake them up, right? So the karma is also there, and that karma will lead us into the next dream. Is that along the lines that you're thinking?
Yeah, I like the second part about you're going to suffer more for the person that can think of nothing else than that. And also, I think 12th chapter of Gita, where the Lord says, if you can't directly remember me all the time, practice bhakti. If you can't do that, well then work for me. If you can't do that, well then do something pious. Prabhupada says in that purport that in this context, social work, national service, sacrificing one's country are all beneficial because they gradually bring one to awareness of Krishna. So in that context, we should encourage ourselves and others at least to do something pious, even if we can't do something directly Krishna conscious, because it's a step towards Krishna.
Can I add
Thank
something
you.
to that?
Thank you, Brennan. Sure.
Prabhupada gives an interesting definition of the spiritual realm, where he says the spiritual realm is that portion of Lord's energy, Lord's creation, in which his all-pervasiveness is perceived. And there's also something very interesting that Srila Gopal Das Babaji one time said Bhaktivinoda Thakur was more attached to his possessions than a karmi, a non-devotee. Because he saw, and this is Krishna's energy, therefore he just took absolute care for everything he had.
Very nice, thank you. So seeing things, again, Maya is not a bad thing. Maya is Krishna's energy. So if we're seeing it in relationship with Maya, with the Lord, we have to take care of it. And most fundamentally, that's our body, right? Taking care of the body, because the body belongs to the Lord.
This presentation, really great presentation, it made me think of the dichotomy between Purush Bhav and Prakriti Bhav. And I was wondering, how could we, in our sadhaka deha, take guidance from the women in our life in order to establish the emotions that they have access to, that men lack usual access to emotion, and how we can apply those to our relationships with the Lord?
That's a very nice question. Of course, one thing to also recognize is that the women in this material world also have Purusha Bhava. So we are aspiring to actually be like women, but like those women, right? The purified women who are truly in that Prakriti Bhava. However, Bhagavatam describes how Narada Muni was born in a Shudra family, and the nature of a Shudra, he had the nature of a Shudra also by his guna and karma, is service. They like to serve others. They like to work with their hands and serve others, and how that became an asset for his becoming a pure devotee. Because he liked service, he was serving the sages. He would do menial services for them, and in this way go back to Krishna. So in the same way, the feminine nature, the feminine qualities Krishna describes in the Gita also, they are very conducive, or you could say compatible, with the process of bhakti. Because bhakti means love, right? Bhakti means devotion. And the common stereotype is that men are very unemotional, of course it's not true across the board, but too rational, and they say Hitler didn't have a woman in his council, otherwise he wouldn't have done what he did. They can be too clinical, we have to do this and this and this. So from that feminine nature we can learn that bhakti is about the heart. And there's a title in the Bhagavatam, a chapter title, The Change of Heart. Bhakti is about the heart. The other things, if I'm right in all the details or not, don't matter so much. But what matters is the heart. And so that's one way that comes to my mind, the Prakriti Bhava. We can learn more to use the heart more, to be more in tune with Krishna's love and his desires. One more. Okay. Your hand is.
Hi, Krishna-prema. So I have a question. So as devotees, I really liked your lecture, but so as devotees, we should be following, Srila Prabhupada wants to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as many of us know, never associated with women, right? He had no intimate associates who were women at all. And in fact, he rejected Junior Haridas for glancing lustily at a woman.
Yes.
He completely rejected it to the point where Junior Haridas committed suicide, as many of us know. So many of us can misinterpret this to that we should completely reject women because that's what Mahaprabhu did. So how would you address that and expound on that and teach us how to have incorporate healthy relationships with women into our life? Because we live in a world with men and women, we can't just completely reject them. So.
Well, first of all, Lord Chaitanya associated with women a lot.
His mother.
Well, when he was a grihastha, also, right? With his mother throughout his life, but also, he married twice as a grihastha. So this example actually is further solidifying the point that it's the temptation, the danger of the temptation and the danger of one's own consciousness that one has to be careful with, not women themselves. Because as a householder, when in some ways he had the protection, or you could say the companionship of his wife, he had no problem associating with women. But as a sannyasi, for his own protection, And that's what he's teaching Junior. Haridas was also the renounced order of life is described. For his own protection and so the temptation doesn't come in his mind. So it is the unwanted desires doesn't come. So there's no hypocrisy. In that ashram, he's staying away from them. He's so that's not an insult to women, but rather you could say a protective armor for himself. That is a sort of humility, saying I'm recognizing that I'm not so strong, that I cannot retain my Krishna consciousness because my mind will get diverted. Therefore, we should act in this way.
Gopal will be here until tomorrow evening. Anybody, please take advantage of this association for more questions. Mahaprabhu appointed